Welcome to Report Designer in ICMS. This course will teach you how to create and print custom lists and forms from the program. Prerequisites for this lesson are the lessons for basic navigation, so you're familiar with getting around in ICMS, and queries, so you know how to find and select groups of records. All of the information we'll cover in this course is also available in other places. Chapter 1 of the ICMS User Manual covers system basics such as navigation. Chapter 7 covers finding and grouping records. Chapter 5 explains all the report features in ICMS. All DOI units using ICMS should already have a copy of the manual. It is also available in PDF format on the Rediscovery FTP site at ftp://ftp.rediscov.com/ICMS and on the DOI Museum Program website at www.doi.gov/museum/ICMS. We strongly recommend you read or review Chapters 1, 5, and 7 of the ICMS User Manual when you begin to work with reports. Also, the online system help describes all of the program's report functions. Now we'll learn about designing reports. We'll work from within the ABCD Cultural Resources directory in Catalog Records. But all of the features we'll demonstrate can be used from any screen in ICMS, Natural History Catalog Records, Accessions, Loans, Conservation, etc. And because in most cases reports are run on single records or groups of records, we'll activate a tag set to use during this lesson. We will demonstrate how to create several types of reports: a simple list of selected fields from the List pane, a simple list using Quick Report, an object report with images using Quick Report, an object report with multiple images and related fields using Proficio Reports, and finally a one-page form using Proficio Reports. First, printing a simple list using selected fields in the List pane. From the View menu, choose Update My List View. In the My List View window, select the fields you want to appear in the List pane and add them to the list on the right. Then click Save and Activate to add these fields to the List pane. The List pane now includes those fields. You can adjust the width of the columns by double-clicking the divider between each column header, or by clicking and dragging on the divider. You can also sort the data by any field by clicking its column header. We'll leave the data in order by catalog number for this lesson. With the List pane arranged as needed, you can simply print it, but we recommend you preview it first. From the button bar or the File menu, click Print Preview. The preview window will open. Review the list. You can print it or save it as a file. If you need to adjust the layout, close the preview window and adjust the fields, column width, and sort order in the List pane. Click the Print Preview button again to review it. Using the Update My List View feature, you can include any field from the main screen in the List pane and print it. The ICMS User Manual Chapter 5 includes full details on all the features available within the Preview screen for Print List. Now we'll move on to designing more complex reports. When creating your own reports in ICMS, it is important to think of them as templates, which can be used over and over again with different sets of data. In some systems you may have used before, the design of a report and the data that goes with it are one and the same. In ICMS, the reports are templates, intended to be used as needed with any set of data, such as all the records in a particular tag set or filter. For example, for this lesson, we have activated a tag set of 152 catalog records. But the reports we'll design can be used with this set or any other set of catalog records. Before you start to design your report in ICMS, think about how you want it to look when printed. For example, which fields are you going to need in the report? Do you want it to be a list with column headers on the top of each page? Or is it a one-page form showing data for only one record per page? Should it include an image, and if so, how large should the image be? It can be very helpful to simply sketch your intended layout on paper before starting to design the report in ICMS. We'll create a simple list similar to the one we created with My List View using Quick Report. To open Quick Report, click the Quick Report button on the button bar, or from the Record menu, choose Reports and then Quick Report. The Quick Report Management window will open. Quick Report Management is where you will find your report templates and any results you save when running the reports. To start designing a new Quick Report, click the New button at the top left. The Quick Report Designer window will open. Enter a brief name for the report and a description. Both are required to save the report layout. Note the tabs across the top for Layout, Headings, Options, Fields, and Preview Design. You'll use the choices on these tabs to begin the design process for your Quick Report. Click on the Layout tab. On the Layout tab, select among several basic options. Report style can be either horizontal or vertical. Horizontal will print each record in a row, so it's appropriate for a list. Vertical will print the data for each record in a vertical group, so it's appropriate for a one-page form or a list that requires more space for each record. Paper orientation can be either portrait or landscape. Portrait is appropriate for lists or one-page forms. Landscape is helpful when you want a list that will maximize the data shown for each record. You can also select the paper size and page numbering style. For our first Quick Report, we'll use the default options while we create a simple list. Click on the Headings tab. On the Headings tab, you can enter a title and several levels of subtitle for your report and choose whether these should appear only in the report header on the first page of the report or in the page headers at the top of each page. We'll keep it simple and enter just a report title for this report and leave the report header button selected. Click on the Options tab. On the Options tab, you can select more elements for the report and page headers. We'll choose just to print the date on the report. Click on the Fields tab. On the Fields tab, you can select which fields should appear in your report. From the list of available fields at the top, click to select a field. Then click the Add Selected Items link to add it to the list at the bottom. We'll select Catalog Number, and then click on Add Selected Items so that the field is added to the selected fields list. You can include any data field from the screen you're working from. These include the main fields on the data entry screen. Plus fields from supplemental records when you are working with catalog records. You can also include specific subfields from formatted memo fields. In Quick Report, you cannot include fields from related tables. For example, if you are making a Quick Report from catalog records, you cannot include a field from the related accession record. Proficio Reports can include related fields, and we'll demonstrate that later in this lesson. We'll finish selecting the fields we want in this simple list report. Object, condition, item count, and location. The fields you have selected for the report will appear in the grid at the bottom. You can rearrange their order in this grid. On the finished report, the fields will print as columns, creating a list, since we previously chose the horizontal style on the Layout tab. If we chose vertical style, the fields will print vertically in this order. With the fields selected, you can also choose additional options. You can edit the report label, which is how the column header will appear on the report. Repeating limit lets you select how many rows to include from a repeating formatted memo field or a supplemental record. The limit data column lets you choose to print all data in a field, or a certain number of characters. For numeric fields, such as item count, you can choose to include the total count at the end of the report. At this point, it's a good idea to review the choices you've made so far. Double-check the layout, headings, options, and fields tabs to make sure they include the options you want for your report. Quick Report will assemble all these options into a report design for you. If you later need to go back and change the layout or add an additional field, the design will be regenerated from scratch to include the new elements. Now we're ready to preview the report. Click on the Preview Design tab. Note how Quick Report has rendered the options we selected into a basic report layout. The date and title are in the report header, which prints on the first page of the report. The column headers are in the page header, so they will print at the top of each page. The detail band contains the fields that will print for each record. The report footer, which prints only on the last page, contains the total count of records in the report and the total item count. Finally, the page footer, which prints on the bottom of each page, contains the page number. But also note that Quick Report has set each column to the same width and allows extra space between each row in the detail band. Also, the left and right margins are set to 1 inch, which will limit the printable area of your report. You may want to adjust those features, and you can. Each element on the report layout is called a control. They control the data, text, and other lines, shapes, and images you can include in the report. Click to select a control in the report, such as catalog number. Then move it using the left, right, up, and down arrow keys, or click and drag. Click and drag over multiple controls to select them all and move them together. Then you can close up the extra space so the list will be nice and tight. Continue refining the layout by adjusting the margins and the width of the columns. When you know the data in a field will not take up much space, you can make the control narrower. That makes more room for fields that have longer data. Press Shift with the left, right, up, or down arrow key to stretch or shrink the size of a control. Note how the pink lines help you keep the controls lined up while resizing and moving them. Remember, if you go back to the other tabs to change the layout or add an additional field, the design will be regenerated from scratch to include the new elements. Now we're ready to save our work and see how the report looks. Click the Save and Close link at the bottom to save this report and return to the Quick Report Management window. Note that the shelf list report template has been saved and is ready to use. You can create many different templates with Quick Report for many different purposes, and you can access them all from this window. To run the report and preview it, click the Run button. You'll be prompted to select whether to run the report on all visible records or only on the current record. Since we're creating a list and want to see how it looks, and because we have a tag set active that includes only 152 records, we'll choose to run this report on all visible records. Click OK to preview the report. The Quick Report Preview window opens. Note how the report includes all of the fields we selected in the layout we designed. If you go to the last page, there are the total number of records and the total item count. Now we'll make a different form using Quick Report using the vertical style and with an image of the object. To create this new report, we'll start again from Quick Reports Management window by clicking New. We'll enter a name and description for this report, Object Report with Images. On the Layout tab, we'll select the vertical style. On the Headings tab, enter Object Report with Images. On the Options tab, we'll choose to print the default image. That will print the first image for each record that has an image. And on the Fields tab, we'll choose the same fields as before, plus description. Click on the Preview Design tab to see the layout that Quick Report has rendered. Note that with the vertical style, the field labels are aligned vertically along the left margin, and the fields for each label are aligned vertically next to them. Let's make some adjustments to this layout. Click and drag to make the left and right margins narrower. Select the title and shift right arrow to stretch it to the margin to center the text. Right-click on the report footer band to delete it. This will also remove the record count, which we do not need for this report. This will make more room on the page. In the vertical style, the fields are grouped together, so they'll stretch and move together also. Select only the data control for catalog number. Then shift left arrow to make it slightly narrower. Note how the other fields did the same. Now we have room to move the image box to the right of the data. We'll make it slightly larger. Then stretch the data fields to meet it. Then delete the object image label, which we do not need. And tighten up the white space to fit more records per page. Because the vertical style groups the fields together vertically, it also includes an underline on each row of data to help separate them visually. But we do not want these lines. So click and drag to select all the field labels and data fields. In the Properties grid on the right, see that the item for borders says bottom. That means there's a border around each of these controls with the line shown only on the bottom. To remove it, click the pull down and select None. Now we're ready to save our work and see how the report looks. Click the Save and Close link at the bottom to save this report and return to the Quick Report Management window. In the list of Quick Report templates, select Object Report with Images, and then click the Run button to run this report on all 152 visible records in our tag set. Note how the report includes all of the fields we selected in the layout we designed. Each record is listed vertically, one below another, with the data fields also vertically grouped for each record. The images shown are the first image for each record. There is more you can do with Quick Report, and Chapter 5 of the ICMS User Manual includes full details. Now we'll create more complex reports with Proficio Reports. Whereas Quick Report helps you create the design by giving you specific options to choose, Proficio Reports puts you in complete command of every aspect of your report's layout. Quick Report is also limited to the fields on the screen you're working from, so you cannot use fields from related tables. Also, you are limited to a thumbnail-sized image of the first image attached to a record. Proficio Reports lets you include fields from related tables, full-size images, and all images for each record, in addition to many other features. Chapter 5 of the ICMS User Manual includes full details on using Proficio Reports. To get started, click the Proficio Reports button on the button bar, or from the Record menu, choose Reports, and then Proficio Reports. The Proficio Reports window opens. The Proficio Reports window lists all the standard reports available from this screen, in this case Cultural Resources Catalog Records. You can design your own Proficio reports starting here, and they will also be included in this list of reports. To create your own report, from the File menu, choose New Report. The Report Properties tab will open. In the Report Properties tab, enter a name for your new report. Remember that this is a template which you can use over and over again with any group of records. Choose a name that indicates the purpose of the report rather than the group of records it includes. Also, since this report will be listed among all the standard reports, consider using a naming convention, such as starting the name with your unit acronym. That way all your custom reports will be grouped together in the list. We'll name this report ABCD Object Report with Images. You can also choose to make the report available from both cultural resources and natural history directories, and choose whether others can use the report or only you. We'll leave the default settings for this lesson. To start designing the layout, click the Report Layout link. The Proficio Report Designer window will open. Note how Proficio Reports starts with a blank page to work with. The left side includes a toolbox. The toolbox includes standard controls such as text, labels, lines, shapes, and page breaks. Below that are Proficio controls, which are specific to Proficio Reports. Proficio controls include Proficio fields, supplementals, related fields, and images. All of these standard and Proficio controls can be set on the page to create a report. The right side includes a property grid that lets you define specific traits for each control. We'll use some of the most common tools to design a report. It will be similar to the object list with images we created using Quick Report, but with some key differences. In the toolbox on the left, in the list of standard controls, click Label. This control lets you put text on the report. We'll use it to create field labels. The names of the fields we'll put on the report. In the Layout area, click and drag to create a box for the first label. Now you have a control defined for a field label. To configure it, use the property grid on the right. Scroll down to find the text property and enter the desired field label. In this case, catalog number. Although it can be any text you want. Now that we have one field label, we can copy it to quickly make several more. With the label still selected in the Layout area, right-click it and choose Copy. Then right-click in the Layout area and choose Paste. Click and drag the new label into position. Then in the Properties grid, edit the text property to name this field, in this case, Object. Hold down the Shift key while clicking to select multiple controls. Then you can copy and paste to create more of them quickly. Then select each one to edit the text for the fields you want. We'll create data fields to match the labels. To do that, we'll use the Proficio controls in the toolbox. In the toolbox, scroll down so you can see all the Proficio controls. Select Proficio field, which is the most commonly used control. It will bring in the data from the selected field. In the Layout area, click and drag to create a box for the field. Now you have a control to print a specific field. To complete it, use the property grid on the right. Scroll down to find the field name property. And from the pull-down, select catalog number. Now that we have one field, we can copy and paste it to quickly make several more. When moving each one into place, note how the pink lines help you align the new box with the existing ones. If you move a control using the up, down, left, and right arrow keys, it will move into place quickly. For each new field, use the property grid on the right to select the field name. With some fields laid out in the report, we can adjust their width to be appropriate for the data they contain. For example, we know item count and condition will not take up much room, so we'll make them narrower. You can click and drag the right edge to resize them. Or to be more precise, you can use the property grid to adjust the size. The size property shows the width and height. To make this field exactly 1/2 inch wide, make the width 50. We'll make the condition field about 1 inch wide. This will make room to add more fields. In the same way, we'll make object, location, and description wider, since those fields typically have more data in them. We'll leave space on the right, though, for a large image. If you stretch one field with the mouse, you can then use the Shift key and arrow keys to stretch the others to match. With description selected, check the property grid for the Can Grow property. This lets the field stretch down the page to the extent of the data. That's appropriate for a memo field like description. At this point, we've done a fair amount of work, so it's a good idea to save it. Click the Save icon on the toolbar to save the report so far. Then click OK in the message box to continue working on the report. Next, we'll add a supplemental field. Supplemental records are the history tracking records, such as appraisal value, location history, etc. We'll add the current appraisal value. First, copy a field label and put it in place. Then edit the text to say value. From the toolbox on the left, select Proficio Supplemental Field. Click and drag in the layout area to create the field. Use the Shift arrow keys to align it with the other fields. In the property grid, select the supplemental type name. In this case, appraisals. Select the supplemental field, in this case, number field 1. Go up to How many supplemental entries and change -1 to 1. Note the help text at the bottom of the property grid, which explains that -1 will print all supplemental items. In this case, it would print not only the current value, but all past values for the object. Since we want only the current value, we set the How many property to 1. Click the Format String property. Note how the field help gives examples for different number formats. Enter C2. So the value will show as currency with a dollar symbol and 2 decimal places. Next, we'll add a field from a related table. For example, accession records relate to catalog records, so we'll add the acquisition date from the related accession record. Copy a field label, put it in place, and change the text to say ACQ date. From the toolbox, select Proficio Related Field. Click and drag in the layout area to create the field. Use the Shift arrow keys to align it with the other fields. We need to select the related table, define which fields create the link between the catalog and accession records, and select the specific field to include on the report. In the Property grid, select Related Table. This opens the Related Table Setup window. Here in the Related Table pull-down, select Access, which is the database name for the accession records. To the right, under Proficio Element Connecting Tables, click the pull-down next to Relationships. This opens the Relationship Setup window. For the Relator field type, choose Related Field, which lets you choose a field that will relate or link the two tables. The Relator field name is accession number, so choose it from the pull-down. The Target field name is also accession number, so choose it from the pull-down. These steps have defined the accession number field as the link between catalog and accession records. Click the Select Links to close these two setup windows. In the Property grid, select the field name from the related table. In this case, ACQ date. Now we have a related field defined on the report. We have just a few more things to add to this report. First, remember that you can select multiple controls, either by holding down the Shift key while you click each one, or click and drag across multiple controls. This lets you make the same change for multiple controls at the same time. For example, we've decided we'd like the field labels to be bold to set them apart from the data fields. We'll click and drag over the first column of field labels to select them. Then Shift-click to select these other two. Now with these controls selected, we can change the font to bold in the Property grid. We'd like the right side of the page to include a large image of the object. To add that, click Proficio Images in the toolbox. Then click and drag to create the image control. In the Property grid, go to Format Selected. To select the full image format. This will give us the full-sized image rather than the thumbnail. And change Number of Images to Show from -1 to 1. So it will display only the first image. Because some records might have more than one image, we'd like to show those, but as small thumbnails for reference. Select Proficio Images again, and create a control on the report. Then in the Property grid, leave the thumbnail format in the format selected, and change the number of columns to 4. Which will allow 4 thumbnails across the page. Leave the number of images at -1, which we know will allow the report to print all thumbnail images for each record. At this point, we're almost done. Since the layout is the size of a whole page, this report will print only one record per page. We'd like it to print at least 2 records per page where possible. To do that, we need to shorten the vertical space. Scroll to the bottom, click and hold the bottom margin line, and drag it up just to below the thumbnail image box. To add a header band and title, right-click in the Detail band and choose Insert Band. A report header will print only on the first page of the report. We'll choose Page Header, which will print at the top of every page. Then click and drag to tighten up the header band. Copy a label control and paste it in the header area. Edit the text to give it the title Object Report with Images. Set the text alignment property on the property grid so it appears centered. Stretch the control to show the full text. Then from the Format menu, choose Center and Form horizontally. We'll also use the Page Info control. To add the date at the top right. In the Property grid, set the text alignment to top right. In the Page Information property, choose Current Date and Time. Select the Format property, and then select the desired date format. And finally, we'll add a page footer and tighten it up. Select the Page Info control again and add it to the page footer. And set the text alignment to top right. Since the default option for this control is a page number, no other adjustment is necessary. Now we're done designing this report. Click the Save icon to save it, and then click OK. Close the Report Designer window and you return to the list of reports. Now we can run this report and see the result of our design work. We can run it for just the current record, or since we previously activated a tag set, we can run it for all visible records. The preview window shows the report. From here you can print it or save it as a PDF. If you need to modify your report, just return to the list of reports, select your report, and then from the File menu, choose Modify Report. That opens the Report Properties window where you can click the report layout to return to the Proficio Report Designer. We are now at the end of this training. Remember to use the system help and the ICMS user manual. If you need technical support for ICMS, contact Rediscovery at the phone or email shown on the Help menu under About Rediscovery. You can also reach Rediscovery Technical Support at 434-975-3256 or send an email to support@rediscov.com.